Should people, when they can't do it at the nation's capital, should they be able to bring guns, including semi-automatic long rifles, into the Senate and House chambers, looking down on the lawmakers debating bills?
Well, obviously, there's nothing more American than people showing up to a Capitol and voicing their frustrations with government, right? People have a constitutional right to assemble and to petition and to make sure their voices are heard. We encourage anyone who's going to be showing up and protesting to do so safely, to do so responsibly. Along with that right, people also have a right to keep and bear arms. And I think there's a way that you can exercise both of those rights responsibly. Now, when people come here to the Capitol, there should never be a sense of intimidation or brandishing in an attempt to instill fear in anyone. But again, people have a right to protest, people have a right to keep and bear arms, and we just need to be careful before we say you can exercise one, but you can't exercise the other.
So you are still in favor of people being able to bring semi-automatic weaponry into the Senate and House chambers?
I think there's been a lot of talk recently about who in our state or what in our state is essential. The Constitution is still essential because, Nick, the people give me the Constitution and I take an oath to uphold it. People have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms. That right still exists. And my oath was not, I'm going to uphold the Constitution when I see fit or when I agree with it or when we're not in a pandemic. My oath was, as every other lawmaker, was to uphold the Constitution that the people of the state of Michigan gave us. And we have to ensure that we're doing that to the best of our ability.
So if the commission does rule that guns aren't allowed, are you going to be prepared to appeal that ruling?
Well, part of the decision that the commission is going to be making is whether or not they have, in fact, the authority to determine whether or not guns are allowed in the Capitol. Now, yeah, the chairman of the commission has argued that he does not believe they have that authority to do so. They are not a legislative body, they are a commission that was intended to make some of decisions around here of carpet and paint and issues like that, not regarding firearms. So I do believe that rests solely within the legislature. And I commend our Michigan State Police. I commend our house sergeants who've done an incredible job maintaining order here at the Capitol the past several weeks, even though tensions have been high.
Okay. I want to talk about the current lawsuit that you have with the governor. And I was reading up on both these bills from 45 and I believe 76. The bill from 45 says, I'm quoting, sufficient broad power of action for the governor in the exercise of the police power of the state at times of great public crises, disaster, rioting, catastrophe. And the first two hit me at times of great public crises or disaster. Do you consider what we are in right now to not be a time of great public crises?
I think what we're facing right now in our state and in our country is unprecedented. And because of that unprecedented challenge, I think it requires an unprecedented level of partnership to get through it. And that's what we're wanting to do with the governor. No one is disputing the 1945 law or the 1976 law. No one's disputing either one of those. Why we're in court is because we believe the governor's interpretation of the 1945 law is unconstitutional. The question before the court is not how has she handled COVID-19? The question is not have her orders been reasonable? The question is, can this governor or any future governor not just declare a state of emergency, but carry that state of emergency on as long as he or she decides, therefore rendering the legislature completely meaningless. Now, whether it's President Trump or Governor Whitmer, we believe the law still needs to be upheld even in a pandemic. And can you imagine a scenario, Nick, where tomorrow President Trump announced to the country, I no longer need Congress. I not only enforce the law, I now make the law. I'll let Congress know when I need them next. Because that is what's happening here in Michigan. We offered a partnership to the governor and it was rejected. We offered to return to the regular democratic process. We offered that cooperation and instead she chose the courts. But I believe we work best in a pandemic when we work together. That's what legislatures in Michigan have done in times past. That's what our country has done in times past. And that's what we need right now in our state.
Wisconsin Appeals Court just basically ended that governor's stay-at-home order. I'm sure you're aware of that ruling. So I assume this is going to be something that if you lose in the first round, you will be appealing this as well. Is that safe to say?
I imagine whatever decision is made in the Court of Claims, either the legislature or the executive would appeal to the Michigan Supreme Court. And I have every anticipation that this will be heard before the highest court in our state.
Yeah, that's actually probably the safest thing you could say. Somebody's going to appeal this ruling. Only other topic I wanted to talk about was mail-in voting. It's not as immediate right now since we did just have the May election, but I'm sure you saw turnout for that was record high. It could be a combination of people being bored and also mail-in balloting, which most people are giving the credit to. Are you open or flexible to November being a completely mail-in election for the state of Michigan, like we see in other states like Washington? We already do have no reason absentee, but are you on board with things going further, looking at the success that the May election had?
Well, the people of our state have already spoken about what they think is a responsible way to vote while ensuring that we can keep integrity in our voting system. We already have no reason absentee, so anyone who should feel unsafe to vote in person can vote absentee. And the people of our state made their voices heard loud and clear last year, and that needs to be maintained. But the most sacred thing in our country and what makes us great and what sets us apart from other countries in the world is our voting process, is our constitutional republic, and we have to ensure that that integrity is maintained. I think we should follow the will of the people. We have no reason absentee voting. That obviously should be upheld, but we need to be careful before we just throw out our processes and throw out how we do things simply because we're in a pandemic. So the question, am I open to a conversation on it? Absolutely. Am I going to commit that we're going to make this decision today and do something today? No. But we learn so much more about this virus on a weekly and monthly basis that we just need to all make sure we're at the table making these decisions together. Because when we're at the table, that means that 10 million voices of the people of our state are at the table helping us make those decisions. And that's what's needed right now.